in which they can exist. Lastly, our governor in 1 year, they cut teacher pay, went after teachers. But he didn't think the movement was going to be. In fact, they tried to pay off the teachers to split them from the movement. Instead, the NEA president went to jail with a bunch of other folks. By the end of the year, he was trying to put back what he had taken because the pressure. Tom Tillis, of all people, the last 3 weeks of his campaign,
New U.S.
Senator, I wish Ken had really run against, but anyway, in the last 3 weeks, he had to start talking about Medicaid expansion. Not he wanted to, but he had to, because the movement had shifted North Carolina from 2 years ago, 40% of the people believing that Medicaid expansion was a good thing, to 58. So I think that what I like to say is that prophetic or moral discourse always factors in that it will not be easy. But the determination of the relentlessness of it is on us. And we missed something that Obama said. You remember when Obama was out there with Rick Warren? And Rick Warren thought he was asking him a cute question. And Obama answered a question that I think you're exactly right. Much of the leadership, the NAACP, other groups, we didn't hear Obama's answer. He said, Rick Warren said, if Dr. King was alive, considering the fact that you got the nomination to the Democratic, to be the candidate for the Democrats on August 28th, right? 40 years exact to the date of the March on Washington, right? Which is also, by the way, the same date of the death of Emmett Till. Would Dr. King support your candidacy? And Obama said something that is clear as any president. Obama. He said, no. He said that. He said no. He would go out and push me to do the right thing. And that's the piece we have to understand. Yes, there is a very, very serious political calculation. I used to work for Governor Hunt, so I know about, he won governorship 4 times in North Carolina, so I know something about, like you said, practical politics, figuring out each county and the number of the precinct. But I also know that without a movement that says, I'm not supporting your candidacy, but I'm going to push you, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, go out and make me do it. And we have to have deep moral, and it may come from different places. And somewhere we've got to unite these movements that are happening on one issue to understand their connectedness. So I'm working with young people now to say, listen, how mad are you at DAs? We mad as dog fire. Well, how mad are you at these sheriffs? We're just mad. Well, how mad are you at chief of police? We're so mad. Well, do you want to go to Ferguson? Yes. Did you go to vote? Well, did you go to the precinct on your college campus? Well, then why do you want to get on a bus and go 20 hours to Ferguson when the fact the people you're mad with are elected? And they say, Barber, you know that? That makes sense. I said, right. So let's do hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter, but the truth is Black lives have always mattered. They mattered in slavery. The issue is the value you put on Black lives. It ain't that it matters. It's always mattered to this country. That's what 3/5 compromise is about. It matters, just how much it's going to matter. But the issue is, after we do that and the die-in, are we going to register this other 30% of unregistered African Americans that can transform Georgia, Mississippi, North? And here's my argument about this reconstruction, even if it's just a political reconstruction at first. Maybe that's where we need to start. Maybe it's not all the law. But this is the reconstruction I want to see first. The reconstruction of the solid South. And I don't have to have 13 of the former Confederate states. If we can win in Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, and Virginia, if those 4 states can be transformed politically, that in itself is a major reconstruction of the southern South, of the solid South. And if extremists figure that they're going to have to start fighting in the South, see, right now they say we got the South. Oh, but if they ever have to start fighting in the South, you know how happy I was that they had to spend $100 million in North Carolina? They wouldn't have thought about doing that 10 years ago, but there's a movement afoot. And they had to spend all that money. And I believe that you know, as we were talking, that may be, I need to resharpen. The first reconstruction may not be reconstructing the laws, but reconstructing the political calculus of the South. And if we just do it with about 4, maybe 5 states, let's throw South Carolina in there. You know, if we can get Georgia and South Carolina and Mississippi and North Carolina, and you know, we're always going to get a little Florida in there, but you know, something from the north, but you know, that's 6. Woo, what a day, what a day, what a day. That'll be something to write about in the nation for the next 6 months, because it's going to change the whole way the political calculus is done in this nation.
I know our South Carolinians were very delighted that you added them into the calculus.
Since they still fly that Confederate flag,
well,
that I preach under every, let me tell you a quick joke. This is not through. So last year, because I look for signs, you know, I know some of y'all, but me, I'm looking for signs from above, okay? So last year, we had the dome underneath the Confederate flag. And I was talking about moral movements underneath the Confederate flag. And in the midst of talking about it, a wind blew. The American flag opened up, but the Confederate flag wouldn't even open up. I said, see that? Even that flag goes. It's time for a new day and a new wind to blow through America.
Pedro, you've been watching the flags, sir? Yeah. Yeah. I just want to ask. What Reverend described there had a lot of feel of kind of building into, let's get involved in politics. But you've spent a lot of your life kind of straddling that line between politics and movements. And you're running for the school board, getting elected, working for politicians, but also kind of going out and trying to figure out ways to pressure. Where do these folks best draw their line? As people are very, very engaged, very, very active on movement, electoral politics. Where's the smart place? Where's the smart calculus?
I'm just happy to see people do something, right?
We're going to accept that. Yeah.
Right. You know, personally, I think politics. It's so hard to be involved in politics these days. I mean, you have to swallow so much to put up with it. But I know it is important being involved at all the different levels. So those who have the stomach for it, I encourage you to stay at it. I'm inspired by listening to Reverend Barber, because I do think he's right. That, you know, I often say that the most pessimistic people are the least active people. Right? If you're not involved and all you do is watch TV, you get depressed. Right? It is being involved in movement, it is being active that actually leads to this kind of optimism that you hear from Reverend Barber. So, and a lot of young people I know who are angry are not doing the practical things, right? And so I think that message, and it would be very inspiring, very important, I think, for, since this is largely an older crowd here on the cruise, to connect with some of these young people who I think don't have a perspective. I often felt when I was a college student as an activist, I said, why should we be leading this? You know, why aren't there older people with more experience who know more, providing good leadership? And I think that lack of connection across generations is a real it's a real problem, because each generation should not have to continue to make the mistakes in doing this work. There are certain things we've learned in the past that we've got to pass on and work with young people so that we can provide some of that guidance. But you know, I have found that right now I feel much more comfortable as on the outside of the politics as a critic, but I feel very compelled to be connected to grassroots efforts in communities and beyond to try to push the direction of the politics. I actually think that most of our politicians are not leaders, they're followers. right? And if we can shift the sentiment, we will shift the politics too.
Ask the Bittners to come equipped with their microphones, and we'll take some questions in a moment. Before we do that, though, I'd like Pat, if you could wrestle with that same notion